Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 82 of the Still City Insider podcast. I am one of your hosts here, Jeremy Hritz, alongside Jim Wexell, and we have a very special guest with us today, Mike DeFabo from The Athletic. Mike, how are you this fabulous Wednesday?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you on the show, and it's a quick turnaround this week for the Steelers following that loss to Jacksonville. Injuries to Kenny Pickett, injuries to Minkah Fitzpatrick. But let's talk the activity in the NFL trade deadline, or the lack thereof, for your Pittsburgh Steelers. They didn't make any moves. And are they fine? Is the state of this team okay? Or are they just being prudent? And Mike, let's start out with you, your take.
Well, I think when you look at the NFL trade deadline, it's not like other trade deadlines like NHL or Major League Baseball. And the reason for that is because team development is really important in football. You have training camp for a reason. It's not like baseball where you could pluck a left fielder and he could start the next day. There's an acclimation process. So historically, there have not been as many trades in football. It's only been in recent years where there have been some. And I think some people were intrigued that maybe Omar Khan, with his aggressive nature and his nickname, the Con Artist, he would go make some big trade. And he showed last year that he's not afraid to do that with Chase Claypool. I think the situation was maybe just the prices didn't line up and the deals didn't come together. I know there was some speculation and some smoke that maybe the Steelers were interested in Chicago corner, Jalen Johnson. I think that would have been a very intriguing addition to the Steelers, because of the fact that I think that they could continue to make over that position. They've already begun to do so. But that would have really required not only trading for the player, but also signing and extending him, because the Steelers are not in a position where you want a rental to push you over the edge. You have to be thinking long term. And I think that it made sense that deal didn't get done, because in essence, you would have had to trade both a pick and also paid the guy. You're kind of paying twice for the guy. You could kind of just wait till free agency this year and then spend that money accordingly.
Well, I tell you, I think they turned him down because we already have a Jalen. Well, we don't want to confuse the media guys, right? No, I thought it was great. I thought it was great that Omar went after him, because I do believe pieces can be picked up. Valuable pieces here and there. Don't get silly with it. And I don't think they were. And I think they picked the right guy. I think they need a cornerback badly. I mean, even with the injuries now, even if they were healthy, you would need, Levi Wallace is a Band-Aid right now. Patrick Peterson is 33 years old. James Pierre is not the up-and-coming guy, and neither is Darius Rush, in my opinion, after watching him. Sorry, Darius. But I think another corner, even though I heard the talk shows yesterday, they couldn't believe they were going after a defender when this offense is so bad. But it's a piece. They need that corner. They're going to have to draft a corner, at least with the second-round pick. So going after Jalen Johnson, a young guy looking for his second contract, and yes, you would have to pay him. But if you couldn't pay him, you'll get a nice comp pick back. You'll probably get a third-round pick back. And that's probably where the negotiations with the Bears started. The Bears are going to get a third-round pick back if they don't sign him. Mm-hmm. Maybe fourth, but likely a third as a comp pick in free agency. So they were probably looking for a second-round pick. And I saw the one report that the Steelers were offering a third and fifth. That sounded exactly right to me. Mm-hmm. We'll give you a little more than that third-round pick, and maybe we'll sign him. And maybe we won't have to use our second-round pick next year on a corner. And this guy's more experienced. It all made sense to me. But the Bears probably just said, third and a fifth, we'll keep this guy. Yeah. So, there was a reason the Steelers were after him, right? Yeah. So anyway, I didn't see any offensive guys really worthy of going after. I mean, if you're going to trade Najee for Derrick Henry, if you can do that straight up, all right. DeAndre Hopkins, they're not going to bring in another receiver, even though they probably need one, but they're not going to bring one in.
Yeah. And maybe Chicago felt fleeced last year after that Claypool trade. They're like, we're done doing business with you guys.
A little gun shy.
Yeah, a little gun shy. But we talked about the trade deadline passing. The team tried to make an effort to improve at least the back end of the defense. But there are lots of problems surrounding the Steelers team. That was evident. Nothing really surprising or new out of this Jacksonville game. But Jim, let's talk about the state of the Steelers at this point. I'm sure a lot of viewers and listeners out there are wondering if there is still hope that this team can get better and improve, especially offensively. The defense has been out on the field much too long in all of these contests, but where is this Steelers team currently? And Jim and Mike would like to hear from both of you on this one.
Well, Pickett has to get better, and Pickett needs more. That's the one thing people are forgetting. This guy's a second-year guy. Give him a minute, and he's shown us quite a bit with his fourth quarter comebacks. Can it really be that difficult in the first quarter? I think I love rock music, and I love Neil Young, and he debuted Rockin' in the Free World on Saturday Night Live. And it's such a hard charging song, and it's such a cold stage to walk out and do that on TV. It's not like he's doing it as an encore at the end of a performance. So this was a little difficult. So you had the band doing all kind of push-ups and jumping jacks and and it was an incendiary performance. So, do these guys need to do more push-ups and jumping jacks? I don't know. They just look dead out there in the first quarter, and they look like they're walking on eggshells. It wasn't a perfect pass to Deontay Johnson, but it should have been caught. So, in the offensive line, I'd like to think is coming along. And they did add a tackle, and he's going to be playing. I think they still need a center. Isaac Seumalo's playing better, but he missed a stunt, and it cost him a sack. So I would like to think the offensive line's getting better, and the quarterback will get better. So in that regard, they have a chance because they get Minkah back eventually and Cam back if they're still hanging around, and they need a running back. I'm sorry to belabor this point about Najee Harris, but Jalen's better. But I don't know if Jalen can afford to keep playing football.
I know, with all these fines, it's like the more he plays, the more money he loses. He's going negative in the bank account instead of making money playing in the NFL at this point. Jim, I think that for me, it's weird because it seems like it's the same formula every week from the Steelers. Like, they come out and the first quarter is just this mess of 3-and-outs, and they can't run the ball effectively. The passing game has been inconsistent, the play calling. I think when you have an offense that is near the bottom of the league in so many categories, there's not one person to blame or one finger to point. To me, it seems like this is a problem that's kind of pervasive, and it's going to be difficult to fix because of that. But I'll just highlight one thing that's been puzzling to me, and that's been the running game. Last year, when the Steelers offense was struggling, they went into the bye week and they emerged as the 8th best rushing team the final 9 games of the season. And my whole thinking was, okay, they found it. They figured out their identity. Najee Harris was either injured or not hitting the holes hard enough. They figured that out. They figured out their blocking schemes. They found their identity. And I thought the whole point of this year was you have that as your floor. You have that as the reliable piece that when things aren't going well, you can lean on the ground game. And then the hope was Kenny would take a step and you would be able to add, the passing game to it. I'll make the analogy, since Jim made his rock analogy. For me, it's like Happy Gilmore. Like, he hits these long drives and then all of a sudden he looks over and he's like, Happy learned how to putt. That was going to be Kenny learned how to throw, and they opened up the passing game, and it was going to complement this great rushing attack. Instead, what happened is this ground game has just completely disappeared. And it's not only bad, it's sunk to new lows, even worse than it was the first half of last year. 28% of their runs go for 0 or negative yards. So when Kenny Pickett is talking about how there's always this one play that sets them behind the chains, very often it's that a running play that's doing so.
Yeah. So, Mike, let's drill into that a little bit because, and first of all, I think that's super insightful. What is it, or what is that difference from last year to this year with the running attack, especially after the addition of offensive linemen who were supposed to elevate this unit. Bully ball. We talked about the bully run game that we were supposed to have this year, but we're not seeing that on the field. Is it that defenses don't fear Kenny Pickett and his arm and they're just teeing up on the run, or is it more schematic?
I think it's everything. Again, I think it's really when the problems are this big, I think that it's everything. And I think, we thought that bringing in Isaac Seumalo, you were going to get the Eagles offensive line because you had one Eagles player. Well, I think that we're starting to see that playing next to Jason Kelce maybe had something to do with Isaac Seumalo. I think he's still a solid, dependable guy when he's at his best, but I think he's been a bit of a disappointment. I think that Mason Cole, who's a guy that we all love in the locker room, he's funny, good to hang out with. I think that he's regressed and having a tough season. And then, if you draft an offensive tackle in the first round and he's on your bench, he's not going to really help you. And that, I think that's the other part of it too. So, I don't think that the upgrades were as significant as we imagined. And then I think that the play calling is predictable. I think that Kenny's not doing enough and the passing game's not doing enough to back some of the safeties off or to make these linebackers wonder if it's play action. So, I think it kind of is, again, like with everything with the Steelers offense, it's a bit of everything.
I will add that Jacksonville is very good up front. I mean, we're coming off a game where I don't think the Steelers really tried to run, and I applaud them for opening up with the pass game. And then hopefully that would open up the run game. But that's a brutal front, and they were playing on 10 days rest. As I said before the game, we hadn't seen the best Jacksonville yet. They're on the rise just as the Steelers are. So I think right now we're in that phase of just watching them play against an 85 Bears type. I mean, those two pass rushers, that's a pretty talented pair. I almost want to say they're the best in the league, but every week I seem to say that. And the Steelers have one that's pretty good too, a duo. So I'll say that about the run game there. I'll also say that I asked that exact question, Jeremy, that you asked of Mike. Can you put your finger on why? I did the averages for my story this morning. Is like, didn't they average like 140 yards last year per game down the stretch after the bye? And this year it's only 80 yards a game.
Yep.
As a team. And they're running 11 times less per game, which if you're going 3.4 per pop, you probably shouldn't run any more. And
right.
People say they got to keep battering Najee into the line. I don't see that as helping anything on 3rd and 8 again. And I wonder if Najee gained too much weight and took a step back. I mean, he's obsessed with weight building. And Le'Veon Bell said he needs to lose 25 pounds. And he is more Le'Veon Bell than he is Derrick Henry. So maybe he should play to that strength. So anyway, I did ask Canada that, and Canada said, you'd have to look at each play. There are a lot of things going wrong in each play, something like that. It's like a non-answer. But I guess he can't say the offensive line isn't as good as we expected and Najee's regressed.
Well, that's the answer that he would have loved. He couldn't answer that question. And he said, I can't put my finger on it when you said that. And the truth is, the offensive line is still not very good. The running back we drafted in the first round is not dynamic enough to prove that he's worthy of being a first-round pick. And we're not doing enough in the passing game to open things up. Like, there is an answer to that question. He just didn't want to throw his players under the bus, I think. And also he's part to blame too, He has something to do with it, designing the plays and picking when they're called.
But he's not going to throw himself under the bus.
Not that either.
Mike, are you telling us he's not 100% of the problem, that if he goes away, everything's going to be fixed?
I don't think so. I think that this is going to take more than just changing the offensive coordinator to fix the run game. I mean, I think that this offseason, the Steelers are going to have to both draft and sign offensive linemen.
And totally examine the other assistant coaches. There's always Dick Hoke. For how many years? Well, was it like almost 50 years? Was the run game coordinator without being called the run game coordinator. The offensive line coach would get up on the board and say, you got to do this, you got to do that. Or we're going to do this play. And Dick Hoke would say, hey, we can't block that up. That's not going to work. And then they would make the corrections of what how to coordinate the run game. It's not just the pass game. So whether it's the offensive line coach, the running backs coach, tight ends coach, they have to get somebody that understands the run game the way Mike Munchak did. He was run game coordinator too. So there's that too, talent and coaching. Yeah.
So if we frame this loss, what's the meaning of this loss for the team and for the remainder of the season? Again, we talked about the quick turnaround this week, playing Thursday night against the Titans. What does it mean, and how does this team respond, especially without Pickett, potentially without Pickett? I know it's going to be a game time decision. Without Fitzpatrick, what do you see playing out Thursday night?
Well, I think what's happened is the Steelers have kind of been using the same formula and been flirting with losing. The formula has been the offense is going to struggle and the defense is going to really carry them and produce mostly splash plays. They've been a team that's been very, very dependent upon that timely turnover that really changes the tide, either the momentum or produces points. And I think in this game, they kind of found out that's not sustainable. At one point, overall, the Steelers defense gave up one touchdown, which should win the game. At one point, they were winning the turnover battle 3-0, and they were still down 17-3 in the game. So, I think that the sample size is big enough that kind of this is the team, this is their formula. But is it going to work? I have concerns after seeing the last game.
I don't know if it's their planned formula to suck in the beginning of the game.
Yeah. It's not on purpose, but they've been flirting with this. When the offense is this bad and you're that dependent on the turnover,
Deontay has to catch the damn ball. And Chooks has to block, and on and on and on. So I don't know that it's as bad a loss as everybody wants to make it feel. I'm very happy that they're playing Thursday again. In the interactive media world, these losses can be depressing, even if you're not a fan of the team. It's brutal dealing with the angry fans. And, that was an ugly game against Jacksonville, but they can make up for it. I mean, this quarterback is a rookie playing his second game. I can't see him having that big of a game or anything close to that kind of game. They shut Derrick Henry. Landon Roberts is champing at the bit. They use their inside linebackers differently. And I think they're starting to get the run defense part. The pass defense is still hideous. Last in the NFL in yards per completion. They still give up those big plays and still can't tackle back there. So that will have to improve. But I don't see it really being attacked much by a rookie quarterback, even though he threw 4 bombs last game. So, if they focus on Derrick Henry, which I think they can, and then they can get back on the winning track, then the Packers next week. And hopefully, Cam might come out and start this game. That would give the entire stadium a jolt. If he's the last defender introduced, I can see that.
Yeah.
Because he was running first team in the walkthrough. It's just a walkthrough, but he was running first team. He confirmed it with me. But and then Minkah comes back, and by then Kenny getting warmed up, getting his groove going, and Jalen's the primary ball carrier, even though he's broke. But so it can turn around.
Yeah, well, we don't have to wait too long to see what the outcome is following this disappointing loss. Anything else you want to hit on before we wrap up? I'm good. Mike, what do you got?
Well, one thing that I want to just bring up we didn't get to the impact of Minkah's injury. And one thing I think, obviously, you lose an all-pro guy, that's going to be significant. But I think it's the type of player that you're losing in the opponent as well. And the Steelers love to run that 3 safety package. And that was born out of a desire to limit 2 tight end teams. Well, here come the Tennessee Titans, and they run they're the 3rd most frequent 2 tight end team in the league. And they feature their tight end a lot. A lot of people have been saying, like, why doesn't Minkah have more interceptions and stuff like that? The reason is because he's been so dedicated towards guarding and defending the tight end. I think that this is going to be the game when you realize, like, oh, this is why Minkah didn't have those interceptions, and this is what he was doing so well. So that's really a matchup I'm looking to see in this game, is like, how does the Steelers defense counter now that they're missing a guy that was such an important piece of solving that puzzle?
That's an excellent point. And I saw that tweet you made today. I tell you, if you want to follow a good Steelers reporter, he's his second year on the beat or first year?
Second, I got picked up the practice squad in the middle of last year, made the team, and stuck around.
Mike's very good. I suggest you follow him on Twitter. He makes me laugh sometimes, and he comes up with good nuggets like that. Other than that, Jeremy, I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah, well, let's so Mike, if you want to give us your Twitter handle for the audience out there and where they could check out your work.
Sure, absolutely. You could just find me real simple at Mike DeFabo, DEFABO is the last name.
All right, outstanding. And you can check out Jim's work at the Still City Insider and also give him a follow on X at Jim Wexell. You can give me a follow at Still Study, and we will see you back here next week for episode number 83 of the Still City Insider podcast. Have a great week, everyone.